detective. Thrill me.
Took a couple of weeks off to recover after taking an ass whooping from Reb Brown and Lou Ferrigno.
My knee's still sore from Reb Brown's roundhouse kick.
My shins are a little bit tender. But we're back. Tonight's movie, Blade. We're in Snipes Town. Have we done any Snipes? Demolition Man. Second tier Snipes. So
come on.
No, but that was him in a supporting role. He wasn't the lead. This is lead Snipes.
Okay.
No Gibbo tonight. Had some problems getting through Blade due to some internet issues. So he's out.
He was on the phone for a couple of hours firing.
Straight, I'm sure.
Poor bastard.
But what have you been watching? It's been a couple of weeks. Mm-hmm. I know I'm light.
Yeah?
Yep.
I got through a couple. A couple that will be right up your alley too. I finished The Punisher.
Is it any good?
Yeah, look, I really liked it. There was towards the end there was a couple of things that bothered me a little. I think perhaps one in particular, they might have pushed things a little too far. But yeah, I really liked it. I liked it. I was very happy with it. It was a little less violent overall than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
But yeah, I quite enjoyed the story. I think the acting and the production of it was fairly good. I was really impressed with that Aussie bloke that played the kid that came back home from the war.
Oh, yeah.
I thought he did a really good job. Yeah, happy with it.
Solid.
I watched Arrival.
I've heard very good things.
Yeah, really, really liked it. It's very different.
Cerebral.
Yeah, might have gone a little over your head in some parts. Yeah. Look, it was really good though. Like you just kind of floored when things all come together, and yeah, I was quite impressed with that one. I know that was one of Gibbo's absolute favourites from last year. So, yep, I think
definite.
Yeah, very good. Must check it out.
Okay.
I also watched Passengers. So that's the one with Chris Pratt and Jennifer Lawrence on there.
Oh, yeah. Had a really slightly untidy idea.
Yeah. I agree with Gibbo. He mentioned that they do a good job of sort of asking you some questions. Like, what do you think you would do in a situation that he's in? And, you know, some parts you come down on sort of... You can understand what he was doing, and then in other parts you think he's you know, deplorable. And it does a pretty good job of that, but then down the stretch it just turns into just a bit of an action kind of, not really action, but that kind of territory. We've got to tie things up, and like I wasn't really pleased with the end of it, but up until, you know, probably halfway through, I thought, yeah, they've done a pretty good job with this. But I happened upon Death Wish.
Charlie Bronson,
yes. Interesting. It seems to me that in that period of time, you didn't really need a story to get from one end of the movie to the other. You just kind of tack some things together. That seems to be what Death Wish is.
Because it was a hit.
Yeah, I know.
There's 5 of them.
I know. That's troublesome. I think of lessening quality as they went along. But,
I'm sure.
But yeah, look, it's... Again, it's got some sort of interesting questions of the audience when he sort of starts to go vigilante, but just quietly, the bloke's facial expression does not change, and he experiences some fairly traumatic shit in this movie. Doesn't even blink. I don't think he just sort of, every scene's played the same, and he just kind of goes on this sort of vigilante spree. But for me, it didn't really
tie it up.
He didn't really go after anyone that was involved, as far as I can tell. It was just Denzel copped it.
Jeff Goldblum.
Jeff Goldblum, no, he got away scot-free. Yeah.
He was
involved. So, but we never saw him again. So that, I just felt like it kind of, I don't know where it went.
My problem with Death Wish is, and I think it's going to be a similar problem with the remake, is that Charles Bronson was known for tough action roles. That then does not translate that he's mild-mannered doctor or architect.
Fuck, he's never mild-mannered.
You know what I mean? Like the idea of Death Wish, and please correct me if I'm wrong, is he's supposed to be a mild-mannered guy whose kids and family get killed, who then turns into gun-wielding vigilante.
Yeah, well, I mean, the mild-mannered stuff never really... I don't know whether it was mild-mannered per se. It was just, law-abiding.
Yeah.
Upper class, I guess.
But not likely to go around shooting people.
No, but then that's the kind of tack that he takes. But you're right, you never kind of... The second Bronson's on screen and kind of,
mumbling.
He's Mr. Confident from the get. You
Yeah.
see him in his job and he's Mr. Confident and, throwing out, we should do it this way. And everyone's like, yeah, we should. Like, he's basically in charge from the get-go. So when he picks up the gun and starts blowing people away, you're never really on a journey. You're kind of exactly where you bloody got off, I guess. But yeah, it didn't really go anywhere. It didn't.
And I think that is the same problem you're going to have with the remake.
Yeah, well, there was parts of it, like there was the bits that did kind of carry it along a bit, where there's a police officer that sort of starts the investigation and kind of tries to figure out who it is and has a bit of a chat with Bronson and sort of... I guess it's, again, where he ends up asks you some questions about your own, what do you think of this? Do criminals deserve to be treated this way? But, I don't know, I could have done with some story threads being resolved somewhere along the line. Sure. I got onto It Comes at Night. Really liked it. It's a very small story, very sort of contained. Super well done in terms of creating an atmosphere and a tension to the whole thing. And again, it's kind of... You finish it and you sort of... There's not really a direct line into this is exactly what happened. You kind of interpret it how you want it in some ways. But I was really impressed. And Joel Edgerton is just sneaking into, absolute upper echelon for mine. He's done some really good stuff lately. This and The Gift. Yeah. So, yeah, I'd definitely check that one out. As soon as it opened, I immediately went out to see The Disaster Artist.
I need to watch it.
I loved every minute of it. It's quite good. I mean, for me, if you haven't seen The Room, it's probably not as good. But if you've seen The Room, Franco's performance is just spot on. And it's quite funny, but they've also done a good job of just tweaking some parts of the story to make it a bit of, a bit of the underdog deal. Yeah. But yeah, Franco is just, he's just awesome. If you've seen The Room and you kind of look at Tommy Wiseau and think, Jesus, he's super strange, but I can't look away from the man. Franco just captures that beautifully. So
the book was very good too.
Yeah, the book was excellent. Yep. And the last thing I got onto was I watched season 3 of Bates Motel.
Oh yeah, good.
Just loving it at the moment. I think Freddie Highmore and Vera Farmiga are just excellent, but the show as a whole is really interesting. They're starting to get into territory. The first couple of seasons, they got into territory where Norman was sort of blacking out and doing these sort of things. Like, they knew he had some issues, but season 3, they really start to ramp it up. His sort of issues that he's experiencing, and Freddie Highmore is fantastic.
Does the series end at Psycho?
I believe season 5 does Psycho.
Right.
And you've got, I think Rihanna plays Marion Crane.
So
I'm not entirely sure, but it gets.
I think it does. I think it goes. It at least maybe perhaps takes the Psycho.
I think it goes to the first Psycho movie, and I think it might end.
That's all right.
Yeah, but highly recommend it. I didn't know how I was going to take it when I first got in, because I enjoyed Psycho, but it was never like on my lists of things to watch regularly. But yeah, I think he's fantastic, and you get some really good performances from the supporting, like that Olivia Cook that's going to be in Ready Player One. She's fantastic. Again, I had no notion of who was in this or whatever, and she's just blown me away for 3 seasons. She's been excellent. Old mate Nestor Carbonell is also he's also throws in a great performance, because he's a sheriff. So that kind of blank-faced kind of stuff that he rolls with is just spot on. Like, it's kind of like a tick for the character that, he's talking to people and he's just not giving them anything. Yeah. But, that's his job. And he even says it a couple of times, So, yeah, I would definitely check that out if you haven't watched it.
Yeah. That's everything?
That's me.
Okay, I basically saw 2 Christmas films, both of them in the cinema.
In the cinema?
Me and the wife went and saw Love Actually in the cinema.
Yeah.
Yeah, look. I don't mind Love Actually.
I'm going to throw it out there. I used to not mind it, but I don't know how it's got to classic status. If it didn't have a Christmas in it,
when we look
get
back
to
on it
classic
and
status.
we were talking about it in the car, we were saying you could have cut this, cut this, cut this.
Yeah.
You could have cut multiple number of those stories and tightened it up, and it would have been a much better movie. It's got all the it's got decent ingredients, like there's funny in parts and there's really good performances, but there's too many, and you need to take.
Let me put it to you this way: if Christmas wasn't in it, would we
it wouldn't be
because
it wouldn't have been in the cinemas.
Yeah,
like where would it get its nostalgia?
If it was just a romantic movie.
If it was just a romantic comedy, it would just been a romantic comedy that disappeared, was of its time and disappeared. And the other one we went and saw Die Hard. They were serving up free eggnog.
Excellent.
And Christmas cookies.
Did you get involved?
I got involved. It was a full house.
Was the eggnog spiked? Somewhere?
No, there was alcoholic and there was not alcoholic.
Right. I would have been on the alcoholic. Slugging away.
It was just gold. It was just great to see it on the big screen, and it was a full house. The atmosphere was there, and having seen it 1,000 times, I forgot how funny he is. Like he gets shitloads of laughs at times. Johnson. Bloody the stupid dude who comes. Dwayne T. Robinson. Tons of great laughs. But it's just a gem. It's just fucking brilliant. So that was it for me. Excellent. I was very light on.
I haven't got onto my Christmas ones yet, but obviously we're going to get onto one. And I've got a few on the list. I'm not sure Love Actually's on there, and I'm not sure what was the other Netflix one that's popped up. A Christmas Prince. Not sure that's going to be on there.
You already told me you were mentioning that.
I saw it pop up on Netflix, and it does the old recommended for you, which it seems to be doing to everybody on Netflix's original ones. So I'm sitting there going, why is this recommended for me? And then I read something that said, so bad it's good, and another one said like The Room for Christmas, and I thought I better check it out. I better have a look.
Alright, let's take a break and come back and talk about 1998's Blade.
You keep your eyes open. They're everywhere. A secret nation of evil.
Tonight, the age of man comes to an end.
A war to save our world.
Blade, myself, killed as many of them as we can find.
A hero who knows no fear.
He makes the weapons. I use them.
Wesley Snipes. Stephen Dorff. Blade. Rated R.
Blade, directed by Stephen Norrington, made The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen after this film and has not made a movie since.
I can understand that.
Sean Connery retired after making this movie.
But it sounds like he was such a pain in the ass that Norrington also retired.
I think they were both bad for each other somehow.
Yes.
It's produced by Wesley Snipes, Robert Engelman, who did Little Nicky and Mr. Nanny, and Peter Frankfurt, who was a producer on Lethal Weapon 2, written by David S. Goyer, who wrote the other Blade pictures as well as Batman Begins. Stars Wesley Snipes as Blade, Stephen Dorff as Deacon Frost, and Chris Christopherson as Whistler. Budget was $45 million, made about $131 million worldwide. Jet Li was allegedly offered the part of Deacon Frost, but opted instead to do Lethal Weapon 4.
Right.
I don't think that would have worked, to be honest.
No.
That's my personal opinion.
Yeah.
Lethal Weapon 4 worked to Jet Li's strengths.
I can't see it having added anything that we wouldn't have got.
No.
Other than maybe a fight scene that was a little bit better, but
maybe. Yeah. I'm gonna kick it off.
Okay.
I was initially, when we brought this up, I was not interested. I'm serious. I was dreading watching it. I was sitting there thinking, God, I think this was a real generic sort of film and I didn't really want to watch it. I really liked it.
Yeah.
Solid, enjoyable stuff. There's a couple of really good action sequences and a little bit of interesting stuff on vampire mythology, which I liked. And it's probably really only let down by a couple of untidy moments near the end. It's where things don't quite go as well as I'm sure they were hoping to make them.
Yep.
But it's a 3.5 for me.
Yeah,
I enjoyed it quite a bit.
I'm about the same. I probably went at about a 3. Well, I didn't probably. I did. I'm sitting at a 3. Yeah, I think you're right. It's I think the comic book background of it is where some of that mythology stuff probably came from, which helped it along. They were able to mine a little bit of different material to do with the vampire lore and all that sort of stuff. I agree. I think the problem is that down the stretch, there's not really any. The stakes aren't huge. There's not really anything that's. There's never a moment down the stretch there where you think, shit, he's toast here. He's done. You're just kind of jogging through the flick, basically.
Yeah. The
action sequences are pretty good for the most part. The direction, I was pretty impressed with the direction in some parts.
Sean Connery wasn't, but hey, not everyone's happy.
Yeah, it's not everyone's cup of tea, Mr. Dorrington. But yeah, it's and it plays to Wesley Snipes. Like, it plays to his strengths because he doesn't have to do a whole lot of acting.
What are they?
Just sort of standing there with a pair of shades on.
I totally agree. It plays definitely to Snipes' strength.
Oh, he gets to go with some of those physical scenes. Yeah. He has very little dialogue in comparison to what he could have had as a lead actor. But it's kind of it gives him enough to work with that he can give a performance of sorts. Yeah. But it also just lets him in some scenes stand there with his glasses on, showing no emotion and saying one line before kicking a room full of people's asses, which kind of
works.
That works. So yeah, I'm 3 out of 5. Out of 5. Definitely a 3.
Look, the film starts at a great clip. Yeah. The opening stuff is great. Like the rave. The blood coming from the roof. Yeah. Blade's introduction, where the guy crawls out of the covered in blood, and they're all sort of got their teeth out and they're ready to have him, and then he just comes across Blade's feet, and then the camera comes up, and they're also going, "Oh, the Daywalker," and that action scene is awesome.
I thought that whole intro was really good. Like that.
It's just. The shootout is excellent. Then he busts into a little bit of sword work.
Well, that's the setup of that dance scene, and this is where I first thought the direction was pretty solid. Was because you get into that dance scene and you start to get a little bit sort of panicky watching it. You're like, oh shit, something's not right here.
Yeah, because I keep bumping into him in a mosh pit.
And he stands out visually because he's got I can't remember what it was, but it was a red jacket, wasn't it? Whereas everyone else is kind of in the black or the white or. And so you start thinking, fuck, you're in some shit here. And then, as you said, the intro to Blade's pretty good. When the red starts hitting from the sprinklers, it's a pretty intense scene, kind of visually.
You see a few of Blade's gadgets and stuff where he's throwing.
So that stuff was really, really good.
And I actually found the effects of them exploding kind of and burning.
Yeah, well, it was clear. See, the problem.
I thought it was all right.
The problem that we'll get into later is for me is that it was just. At the very start of using that computer stuff where you could tell it didn't look real, but they were smart enough about it that in that early scenes it was just quick flashes of somebody falling over and it was it wasn't right up in your face. It was like somebody who was in a sort of medium shot or a long shot being blasted away, and so quick second or two of that, it looked pretty good.
Whereas later
they
got a little bit too close for comfort.
Yep.
I would say.
I think you mentioned earlier that the twists on the vampire mythology. I always find it. The thing about vampires is, I always find it interesting when you can find a story like this where there's some twists on it, and you can go some places with that. I like to see those twists on it, like the bullets that they had with the garlic and all that sort of shit. Yeah. I was like, yeah, that's kind of cool. There's some bullets with garlic. So, now it brings in this whole element of we can blow a vampire away with a gun, which is something that you don't see as much.
But the whole idea that he had all their strengths but none of their weaknesses because he'd been born of a vampire, a woman a human who'd been bitten.
Exactly. That setup in itself is like that you can see you see the pitch. That's the pitch. Yeah. It's a vampire. It's a pregnant woman's attacked by a vampire and she gives birth to someone who's got
bit of both,
the strengths but not the weaknesses, and it's like, okay, tell me more. That's where the pitch is. So the conceit of the movie from the get-go is solid. Yeah.
When the bloke comes alive on the hospital table, fuck, that got me. I did not see it. Like, I remember it happening, but I just kind of forgotten about it.
Yeah, yeah.
And they're talking across the body.
Yep.
Talking about how he's been burned up and, his incisors are bigger and all this and stuff.
Yeah.
No, that's right. And they changed the conversation changes from that to a quick discussion about them.
Yeah.
The couple.
And that's when they're fucking...
And then boom, up he jumps,
Yeah.
Really cool. I like that. It was pretty bloody too, where he grabs the guy.
And that, in
photo.
itself, is surprisingly effective to... You get the body basically taken to the morgue and then they start... This isn't normal. And you're like, oh, that's a really simple way to get doctors involved. And then they're treating the vampire bite like an infection and she's, doing the blood work and all that sort of stuff. You think to yourself, that's a pretty natural way to take it. Then it wasn't something that's been done very often. So that's, again, that's where the strength of the movie and, using that mythology and a good idea, that's... And
at times, well, the second movie's a solid film. A really solid film.
I recall it being better.
Yeah, a bit more simplified, I believe. I believe they took
it
it more in a simpler direction.
Yeah, we got to double check that. We've got to watch it.
Even 3 had a couple of interesting ideas. Yeah. Not many.
Please explain.
I'll have to rewatch it.
Yeah. We better watch 2 and 3 and just
when
double
they
check.
brought out Dracula, things got very untidy, if I'm not mistaken. Look, I'm not a Snipes fan. I never really have been. I think he's a decent actor, and he's a solid presence. He's capable as an action hero, but he's not
capable.
someone I rush out to grab a Snipes picture.
No, exactly. And you think of something like White Man Can't Jump. He had to act in that movie, and he couldn't play basketball, so he had to do something in there.
But
so he's made.
I love a Passion to 57 or something like that.
He's made his name with acting roles in there.
He's got a few action pictures and some of them are okay, but I don't rush out to see a Snipes film.
No.
Right? But this plays right into the meat of his abilities. Mm-hmm. It is, he gets a little bit to do performance-wise, not too much.
Yep.
He gets to look tough and physical. He's got a physical presence. He's a solid, athletic guy who can bring all that stuff to the table. According to Dennis Leary, he does his own stunts and they can't do it elsewhere. But,
except play basketball again.
Sorry, he's not a basketballer. But this works for him.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
it works really well. And I can't think of many other actors I would have preferred in this role.
I think he was pretty much on the money. And you think, you mentioned Wesley Snipes. The first thing that comes to mind is Blade now.
Yeah.
So...
And, again, I haven't seen the other films recently, so I can't comment greatly. But my recollection is I think that his performance isn't as good. Or it's maybe on par in 2.
Yeah.
It's not good in 3. In fact, in 3, he is as blank in the face as his fucking tax returns from 2003 to 2008. You know what I mean?
Yes.
He is blank in the face in the third one.
Yeah.
And it's to the film's detriment. He never brings anything to the table there.
Including tax returns.
and I'm a big Chris Christopherson fan.
Yeah, he was
I love
excellent.
the bloke.
He was
I got a real Sam Elliott vibe.
Mate, the supporting cast was surprisingly good in this because there was no big names per se, but you've got Chris Christopherson who was spot on.
Yeah.
And then you've got the likes of Donald Loge, who's a very good actor who was obviously just, making his name at that point. But for me, I'm a big fan of his, and this is one of his earlier kind of...
I love Donald.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I loved him here.
Well, I was a fan of,
In terms of not performance, I'm talking about character.
Yeah, well, look, the character... Yeah.
And I think that's actually one of the problems for a couple of the performances. They're not bad.
See, look, I can understand why it was necessary. Because it was engaging without Frost having to be there.
Yeah, exactly. I knew I was there. He was fucking painful at times.
Yeah, he was, but in other times I thought, he could have been a lot worse if it wasn't.
And quite
if it wasn't someone like Donald Loge.
Yeah, exactly.
And the other thing,
performance-wise, he's fine.
You drop someone like Udo Kier in that role, who's only in there for 10 minutes or so.
Lord, is he a serial killer?
Oh, I think so.
He's very creepy.
He's this creepy man.
He's a very creepy man, but it works perfectly here.
Excellent casting. Excellent casting for that.
And I kind of dug the idea that they were the old suit-wearing, traditional vampires of the past.
Yeah.
And Dorf was the, leather pants wearing, fucking rave-having, sort of new wave of this stuff.
Yep.
But he also wasn't pure blood.
No. I think that was a good...
Interesting touches. Interesting
touches. And that's something that's been done a few times and we've seen it, but to have someone like Udo Kier as like the head of the table is memorable.
Yeah.
He's...
And I did really dig when they killed him.
Yeah.
Took him out on the cliff to sunrise.
Except the helmets. They looked a bit stupid.
Yeah. They ripped his teeth out and everything like that. I liked all that.
That kind of power play, it was a really good scene.
It worked nicely.
Yep.
But Christopherson reminds me of Sam Elliott out of Roadhouse. Solid mentor vibe.
Are you saying that's a good thing?
It is a good thing. We loved it. Sam Elliott
true,
in Roadhouse.
True.
Christopherson works perfectly because he's a solid enough actor that he can give you something.
Yeah.
But he's also got that grizzled, tough sort of look about him that works for Whistler.
Weathered. He's a weathered.
Very weathered. But you know what I mean?
I would suggest rather than, fights and all that sort of stuff, that's more to do with cocaine. But he's still weathered. It's still a category of
weathered. He is. He's rolling something.
He has not treated his body well. It's still similar. It's not getting punched in the face. It's just jamming something into your face instead.
But the idea of Whistler is he's supposed to be almost tougher than Blade. Because he's supposed to basically tell Blade what to do.
Yeah.
Blade he kind of runs Blade's schedule for him.
Yeah, which works, again, down the stretch when, he gets bitten. He's on his own. He's got to take charge now when he's been, as you said, he's been the weapon that Whistler says, here's what we need to do, you go and do it.
But also, that sequence, surprisingly, even though you can't really wring a lot of emotion out of the Blade face because you're not supposed to. He's kind of meant to be...
No, I think it's because it's Wesley Snipes. but yes,
the death of Whistler is kind of touching in a way.
It was very good.
Because it's kind of showcasing Blade doesn't want to kill him.
Yeah.
But he can't show it by crying or anything because he's not capable of that shit. That's not his property. Yep. But the best he can do is say, oh, look, what does he say? Give me your gun. And he's like, no, I can fix you.
Yeah.
Instead of just
But then it comes through in that by walking away, that's kind of doing it for him.
Yeah.
He's not the emotional type. He stops for that saying, I can fix you. And Whistler just says,
no.
Give it to me or whatever, and he walks away. It's kind of like he respects him.
Yeah.
And
I like that. I thought that was a really nice touch.
Yeah, I thought it was good. I actually thought they did a decent job with bringing his mother into it too. I didn't like all of... I wasn't a big fan of the actress that did the job there, but I liked the idea, and it went along with Whistler as well. I liked the idea of bringing his mother back into it at the end to kind of... to try and play with the emotions a bit more.
Yeah, look, I'm with you. I like the idea. I just don't think it was very successful.
The execution wasn't great. I felt like when...
And it kind of felt, to me, it was supposed to be a big deal.
Yeah, well,
but it just didn't play.
And that's where the dislike
like
probably...
a big deal.
That's where the dislike probably comes in, but I thought when they actually brought his mother back, I wasn't even thinking of it. I was thinking, oh, shit. Yeah. I thought that had passed. They'd left it.
It had just been forgotten.
Yeah.
It's not anything important.
Yeah, I thought all it was she was bitten, he was born, that's the end of it. But so, to bring it back, I mean, it was...
But it was also supposed to...
It was kind of predictable in a way, but I gave him points for that's not a bad idea, and then making her part of the crew, again, as you said, that should have been where he might have faltered down the stretch somewhere, where he couldn't kill his mother or something, or it took him a bit longer, and that's where Frost got the upper hand or whatever.
But it didn't play.
It didn't play. I gave him points for the idea, but the dislike probably is that he just fucking, when it came time, he just killed his mum without even blinking.
Yeah. For some reason, I put this in my dislike and my likes because the the guys who swell up like fucking hemorrhoids and explode.
Yeah.
It's absolutely laughable. The special effects
It
are
is.
terrible. But I kind of got a giggle out of the whole thing.
The bit when he walks down the hallway and you just kind of see him, and then you see the one from underneath. You see just the blood just burst everywhere, and then a second later it bursts through the side as well. I thought that was awesome. And again, it was a mix on the mythology. It's like you bring the doctor in, she gives you this and says. Basically, they give you a 10-second explanation of what a vampire actually is. Oh, the hemoglobin's blah, blah, blah. And then she says, do this to him. You know, you give him this. And all it is, you know, as you said, another way to kill them differently. It was piss funny.
It reminded me of the guy in Big Trouble in Little China. The guy who expands and explodes.
Yeah. I was a fan of that.
The action scenes was pretty good across the board. I think all of them were well shot.
Yeah, I was pretty happy.
I think that there was a little bit of decent kind of style.
Yeah.
Not Russell Mulcahy level style, but there was style. You know, like it was very stylish in the way it was done.
Yeah,
and I think dislike.
They did a lot of the you know, send waves at him.
Yeah,
but they should have, because he's supposed to be king shit. So when he was in that, you know, when he was in the club, for example,
and most of that shit works well. Like it never felt like they're just lining up, taking up.
Yeah, no, it didn't. It was fast. It was, you know, as I said, the direction was good enough that it was a good pace, and it was kind of exhilarating that it's done. You know, like
they didn't overstay their welcome with the mode. A lot of them.
No,
I actually liked the fact that Blade, just again a nice little touch with him feeding off the Doctor to regain his strength.
Yes,
after he's been hurt. Liked it as a nice little touch.
Yes. I still had questions.
Of course.
Yeah, and I was kind of thinking, you know, if he can bite her and all that, then... But he's only half vampire. Is that why she's
still with us?
But
was it the injection of garlic that they gave her beforehand? Like in the early on? Because she got bitten.
Should that have been he bit her and then went, it tastes like shit.
Yeah, there were questions. But I think it was still nice. It was just a nice little thing to have in there. It was cliche, but it was there. And I was happy with it.
Yeah.
Donald Logue, or whatever his name is,
yeah.
Just finally getting his fucking head cut off. Finally. I couldn't sanction his buffoonery. I'm serious.
See, that's why it worked. Because when you got to that point, you loved it.
Look, I love seeing him get his head cut off.
And look, I enjoyed seeing him get his head cut off a couple of times too.
That was still funny. Like, it was still funny, but we had to get rid of him, and it was nice the way they did it.
Yeah.
You know, he charges at him with spouting all this shit about he's going to fuck him up. And then he just sort of goes...
It was kind of the natural end to it.
Yeah.
This fight was all
talk, just no action. He was just, you know... and of course, you know, Frost turning into a huge hemorrhoid. But his is better because they show you a long shot and everything's all sort of distorted except one of his legs.
Are you trying to tell me that the subtext of this movie is something like you should get your hemorrhoids treated or something like that? Like, if you got a hemorrhoid,
treat that thing before it gets out of control? You wouldn't want a bunch of them hanging off you, would you?
Oh dear.
But that's pretty much it for me in the likes department.
Yeah.
I liked a lot of it.
Yeah, I was pretty happy.
And my quibbles are, I think they just took a couple of missteps, and a lot of it's down the end.
Yeah,
it's kind of they don't quite close the loop very well on a few things.
Yeah, see, I felt the whole way through, I felt it was just kind of like at a 3 level. It was never, I was never sitting there. There was no rising action. I felt like the whole time I was just sitting there going, yeah, this is all right.
Yeah.
They've done a decent job, but it never got me to the point where I'm thinking, this is fucking great, and then got a letdown. It was constantly just at a level.
As you would expect.
Yes.
Look, I said it was pretty stylish. It is, but it's kind of over-stylised at times. Yeah. A lot of time-lapse footage, there's one where there's heaps of stun flares going...
Yeah.
There's one where there's a sped up shot in a car.
I actually like that.
Yeah, don't get me wrong, I liked it, but it's kind of a wag.
When they said, I saw that, and then I read Stephen Norrington cut his teeth in music videos, and I thought, well, fuck, that makes sense.
Yeah, it surprised me, I must admit.
Yeah, so I thought
It felt a little bit unnecessary. Some of those bits.
See, that one was used at a time when I thought, well, fuck, they're in cars driving around the whole town, they're getting some conversation out. So I thought, hey, I haven't really seen this before, and it was interesting enough that they're condensing like a long drive into this much and giving us this little bit of information. I was like, okay, 3 out of 5.
Nah, Stephen Norrington, he's coming in for Connery treatment on that.
So you're thinking that's where the Connery walks into his office and says,
"Get this fucking shite out of here." He pulled it. He gave on Legal Storage Gentleman. He told Sean, "Look, what we're going to do is we're going to do a little bit of time lapse stuff." Oh, fuck!
no, this is bullshit. Get rid of it.
Now I'm going to throw one in that I think it's a like. Sorry, it's a dislike. I believe Gibbo might have touched on it briefly, and I think he might have something to say. I don't think he was a fan of Stephen Dorff.
No.
In the film.
No.
I think Dorff's alright acting wise. I don't think his performance is that bad.
Just to sort of add to that, I believe when when Gibbo had his internet issues and said he couldn't quite make it tonight, he did punctuate things with I don't have much to say about Stephen Dorff anyway. So yes.
Dorff's performance is okay. He's a sound actor. Problem is, I think the character, as I said to you, is the leather-clad, sort of, rave-having new guy. I think kind of wanky.
He never feels like he's gonna put anyone other than Udo Kier and those blokes in any danger.
Yeah,
that's the problem.
Because he's so small and so lithe, sort of small in comparison to say a Blade.
Yeah.
You see them standing next to each other. I've got no worries that Snipes will feed him his ass.
Yeah, it's sort of, look, when you get to the end there, you sort of you're thinking, okay, so Dorff's taken over those other guys and done this and that, but by the time they get Blade, you think, okay, so he's just bringing the bloody spider into the room full of flies, basically, for the finale. You never ever think that anything's going to go any other way than this. And I think even the movie kind of ends up with that when they start fighting, and it's done in about 2 minutes, and you think, well, fuck, that's where it was always going to end up.
Yeah.
Basically, like,
and it's probably the film's biggest flaw is that they put together that, this is we're going to get the blood of Blade and put it all in here, and then those ridiculous looking CGI fucking flying skeletons come out of everyone's body, and then go into Stephen Dorff's body. And I'm thinking, okay, so what is he? Is he now superhuman?
Stephen Dorff with red eyes, I think.
But all he does is shove a little bit of coagulant in the bloke and he expands and explodes.
Well, he was the largest hemorrhoid that you need to get treated.
But that's what I mean. It's such an anticlimax. It's like, this was supposed to be your villain.
See, it's all coming together now. Like the building at the end was like a round sort of circular thing, so that's meant to be the toilet bowl, and you can't go into the toilet bowl unless you treat your hemorrhoids. Like, I get it now. You've all sort of
subtext.
No, look, Dorff. The problem was, like, the Whistler stuff was done quite well, but the downside of it is you weren't even kind of angry enough at Dorff at that point to think there was a great deal of satisfaction in him getting done in. As you said, there was much more satisfaction when Donald Lowe's got off than there was with Stephen Dorff.
Because you actually felt something for Lowe.
Yeah, and it should
have
been...
Whether you liked him, disliked him, thought he was a pain in the ass, you felt something for him.
And that should have been Frost. When I'm not saying that character should have been Frost, but that moment when you're like, fucking thank God, that should have been Frost, probably.
But it wasn't.
No.
And unfortunately, part of it's probably Dorff's not really the guy you would have gone for.
I think it was more the character.
Yeah,
it was just a bit bland. Because I thought, as you said, he was alright.
He was alright, it's just the character was really fucking poor.
Yeah.
I also kind of feel that the Doctor doesn't really play much of a role. It's kind of like we're seeing it through her, I get that.
Yeah.
We're seeing the whole idea of the vampire world through the eyes of someone who's not a vampire, basically, because it's from her perspective. And yeah, she brings a couple of little things to the table. She offers the blood work information and all that. And
she didn't really have her own thing going on.
But what's her payoff at the end? Zero.
Yeah, she didn't really have anything other than, I'm sort of here and I can help with the blood work.
I'm basically hovering around beside Blade.
Yeah.
For what reason?
To treat hemorrhoids?
That's it. So listen, don't struggle.
Well, shit, a GP can do that.
Yeah. You go to a specialist. Shit. GP can let your ass roids and then move on.
Yeah, I think Snipes, I think his worst moments were the quips. But there was a couple of bits when he was quipping and he was smiling and stuff, and it was just
kind of didn't work.
This doesn't work. You should just be going in, taking names, kicking ass. It should have been, the chewing bubblegum and you're all out of bubblegum sort of take on things. You shouldn't be laughing about it and giving them a quick smile and a quick, just kick their ass and get out of there, you know. If you're saying something, it's got to sound pretty menacing. And when he did kind of say the menacing ones, even it was kind of like, missed the mark a little bit.
Not quite there in the one-liner stakes. And it's part of that period when this was made, probably.
Yes.
Late 90s. It's kind of an action horror. It's kind of mixed. And the character's non-talkative for large portions. So when he does open his mouth, they decide the best thing to do, we need to get a few Wesley Snipes, moments in.
Yeah.
And whether that means saying stupid things, maybe. Getting back to what I was saying before, I just felt that stuff about his mother. It's a good idea.
Yep.
But it doesn't pay off well because there's nothing that it brings to Blade's issues when he gets there.
Yeah.
So my thinking is exactly what you're saying. I can't kill my mother.
Yeah. Or that, if they're talking about how Whistler can treat it, that they fucking saved her in some way and she's still human and Frost has her or something. Like, I just felt like the idea was good, but the execution didn't quite do it for me.
And at the end, when he's tied up in that thing where they're getting his blood, that's where he tells him that I bit your mother. And then basically a couple of lines and that's it. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, it seems like it should be important.
Yeah,
but it's just a throwaway line about nothing. Yeah,
and that happens with a couple of things. It happens with the mother. It happens basically all tied to that. It had, even as we said that Whistler was the scene was good and Christopherson's performance and Christopherson and Snipes did a good job when that was actually happening. But again, that should have felt way more important when all the shit was coming together at the end. Yeah. That Whistler wasn't there. Yeah. So, it was a bit up and down in those moments
that I felt could have just
they could have pushed it over the top to a 4 or a 5 for mine. Like if you've got you got the good action sequences and that sort of stuff. If you get a couple of those scenes, especially the last 20 odd minutes, you get a couple of those moments to work, then that's where you get.
It would have given you the rising action.
A little bit of the rising action.
I think it's possibly a little bit of judicious editing. Chop out 5 or 10 minutes for me.
Yeah,
just felt it was a little long. Not super long, it's not like you're sitting there going, holy crap, what's going on? It's just that
we didn't quite get there.
The midsection.
I wasn't developing my own hemorrhoids sitting on the couch too long.
That's right.
But of course, if I read the subtext of this movie, I would have known how to treat him if I did. So.
Exactly. That about the mid portion, it just seems to be Blade turning up somewhere, kicking ass, move on. Next scene, Blade goes elsewhere to get some more information.
Well, they kind of did a solid job with getting where he got the information, finding that the freezer that led to down the stairs, blah blah blah, all that sort of stuff. I thought that was okay. It went along, but as you said, you probably could have chopped. Maybe you could have chopped a fast forward for car scene out of that or something,
or a time lapse, bit of photography or something out of the mix. But it just could have been tightened a little.
Yep. I've got to go right back to the rave scene at the start.
Back to the start.
There is nothing that dates this movie more than the fashion and the music at the rave. Yeah. Nothing more. My mate, my mate, the guy that gets taken in there at the start, he's actually in Bates Motel at the moment. And he's quite a good actor, actually. I think he was in The Shield and he's in Sons of Anarchy. He gets taken in there by Tracy Lords, and I'm sitting there going, he's wearing a red sort of vinyl jacket, and was it a Kangol hat?
I think it was a Kangol cap.
Then we're in there, Donald Lowe's is, in the midst of getting a blowjob, he's wearing a bloody mesh T-shirt, is he? Just thinking,
All you can hear is the bass going boom, boom, boom.
Yeah, yeah.
And of course, everyone's got fucking whistles. And
And you hear the like, oh yeah, this could only be made. It's 1990s, guaranteed. It's between 90 and 2000.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
You know.
Yeah, it is aged a little by that.
Yeah.
It's the same with the special effects.
Yes.
They are aged. Unfortunately, again, not a film. The film's fault. It is just simply that when it was made, that sort of stuff was in its infancy.
Yeah.
And there's a couple in general later on. The blood. Where he cuts Dorf in half.
They go a bit too much
awful.
on that. The blood dripping down and landing on people's foreheads, and then the skeletons that come out of them. Like earlier on, when the vampires are getting killed, that's okay. Yeah, I can live with that. You did pretty well of just disguising it, quick couple of bursts here and there. But once they get into that bloody temple or whatever it is, it's everywhere. It's just the special effects are just coming on and on,
and they are dated badly.
As you said, I think they did a pretty good job, but there was only so much you could do to make it look that realistic at that point. I feel like every time I see something like this, I just think to myself, fucking hell, James Cameron in Terminator 2, he was
6 years earlier.
It was just a bloody genius. I don't know what he was doing, but...
Well, his budget was 3 times as much.
Yeah.
So he was on the cutting.
He was going to the bank saying, just give me the bank.
Yeah,
just give me the whole fucking
let's work
bank.
this out. You were going to give Dolores a little bit of a slipper, were you?
Yeah, well, it was for his mesh shirt and his get-ups for the whole movie. Like, I was just looking at him the whole time going, no, you don't look right. I see him in Gotham as a grizzly cop. I'm like, that's where that's your pocket. That's where you live.
Back in the days, Harvey Bullock, I'm sure in the 90s was wearing that shit.
Yeah, Harvey Bullock was getting around the Gotham rave scene in mesh shirts. And, it just, I think he's better placed now than he was in the 90s. He looked out of place then. He kind of, even though he was younger and of the age, I'm looking at him going, yeah, you look 40.
Yeah, exactly. You're the bloke that everyone's going, what is he here?
What's he doing? He's 20. No, he's not.
he's an old 20. He's got a lot on the face. And my last dislike is that the final sword fight is actually the worst of the action scenes, and basically it gets the worst of Norrington.
You knew where it was going.
Music video ticks come into play in that fight scene. Close-up angles.
Yep.
Shots of the swords where sparks are flying everywhere.
Yep.
It's really quick cuts. It's real poor.
Yeah, the only good thing I thought was kicking the sword.
Yes.
And that was like, I thought to myself, he's going to struggle in some way to get to the vials of stuff, but he didn't. It was just kind of like, we'll have a little bit of a, back and forth. Then I get the vials and I just fucking jam them in and kick the sword into you. Like, I just kept thinking he's going to struggle to get those vials, or Dorf's going to catch on that that's what he needs to get, and we're going to get around this some way, but they didn't. It was just down the line.
Well, why not? Dorf catches on, smashes the vials, but one of them survives, and the Blade has to get to that vial to kill him.
But it was just kind of like, there they are, back and forth, I got them.
But also, shouldn't Dorf have been much stronger now? Because
he had 6 vials instead of 1.
I know, but I'm just saying, shouldn't he have been able to throw Blade around the joint?
Well, that's what I would have thought.
But no.
I didn't actually mind the idea that he got cut in half and then came back together. It just didn't look good.
No, it was terrible.
But yeah, that was kind of the only sense you got the whole time of, I'm more powerful now. But yeah, Blade was in the mix the whole time. There was never a point where it was like you're toast.
He's in trouble, I agree. Anything else from your end?
I think that's pretty much it for me. Other than, look, it's a minor quibble, but for a bloke like David Goyer, who's written a lot of stuff and written for everyone, I have trouble with lines like, you may wake up one day and find yourself extinct. Because, I mean, fucking, obviously, if you're extinct, you're not going to wake up. You're not going to find anything. Surely we could have kind of come up with something like that.
Yeah, some of the dialogue's a little bit off.
Yeah, the only other part that, again, was a bit of a minor one was when Whistler appears to get cleaned up by the train. And Blade says he can take care of himself. I'm thinking, you prick. Like, I think Snipes broke character in that point. This is Wesley. He'll be right. Wesley was still shooting. Oh, fuck. Well, what's the line? Like, I just thought that was, for me, one of those little moments, like you said, where it's just a bit of fucking...
Yeah.
It's just a little bit lazy, a little bit kind of just...
By the way, Wesley, don't forget to turn in your tax return. Yeah, I'll get to it.
No worries. Yeah, I'll get it.
That's Blade from 1988.
Wesley, here's your group certificate. No, I don't need that. You know today how much you earned on this? No, don't worry about it. Well, I know, but that's not the point.
Jesus. All right. That's Blade from 98. If you want to get in contact with us, send us an email at thrillme@ionet.net.au. Like us on Facebook, Thrill Me Podcast Australia, or on Podomatic at thrillme.podomatic.com. Find us on iTunes. Make sure you rate and review. That would be nice. Now, next film, Jared. Van Damme and Lundgren.
Well, we're going to sneak a Christmas one before that, are we?
We might be able to do... We'll see how it plays out.
Right.
The Christmas one may come first, but Universal Soldier's next. The Christmas one will keep under wraps until we actually get it done. It's a bit of a surprise.
Nice pun.
But
wrap it up.
Yeah, wrap it up.
Under the tree.
Bow it.
Open it up.
Yeah.
It's a lump of coal.
It's a petrified too. Universal Soldier though. Van Damme, Lundgren, acting masterclass.
Can't wait.
Cannot wait.
Two of the greats.
But until we get to that, take it easy and we'll catch everyone later. Cheers.
Find the podcast at Podomatic or on iTunes. Don't forget to rate and review. Like us on Facebook at Thrill Me Podcast Australia, or contact us at thrillme, all one word, all lowercase, at ionet.net.au.